Chapter 3077. Yiqing Luo nestled in Dmo Xian's arms, as she walked a few steps towards Hell Palace's side. Yiqing Luo wanted to turn back several times to take a look at Zhu Xian, but she was held back by Dmo Xian's arm, stopping her movements. "Ah Xian." Yiqing Luo's little hand hugged Dmo Xian's waist as she called out softly, "That human face is really dangerous. If Zhu Xian is controlled by that human face, then what should we do?" It was no wonder that Dmo Xian was so angry. If it was her, seeing Dmo Xian being hugged by another woman in front of her. No matter what the reason was, she was definitely more irritable than Dmo Xian. He would even tear apart that woman who had hugged Dmo Xian. So it was natural for Dmo Xian to be jealous and angry. But this was the logic behind it. However, Zhou Xian was trying to save her, which was why this shameless person had the opportunity to take advantage of him. If she really didn't care, she would be too cold-blooded. Being manipulated by a shameless person, then kill him. Dmo Xian spat out a sentence that was neither cold nor warm. There was even a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. "Ah Xian." Yiqing Luo's voice turned coquettish as she circled her arms around his neck. "You can't say it like that. Before there is any evidence to prove that Zhu Xian's appearance is related to human face, if he dies, it will be because he died to save me and I will owe him a life." "Little Luo." The man's low and hoarse voice sounded a little gloomy. Yiqing Luo, who was interrupted, raised her head in a daze. She raised her head. Her chin was held by the man's slender fingers. The man's peach blossom eyes were flowing with a cold glint. The ripples were as deep as an abyss, with no end in sight. "I really don't like it when you use such a tone to talk to me because of him." Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted slightly. "I don't like hearing his name from your mouth." His extremely possessive words made Yiqing Luo's long eyelashes tremble uncontrollably. Her eyes met his. After a long while he slowly closed his eyes and lowered his eyelids. Yes, think from another perspective. She absolutely did not like to hear any other woman's name from Dmo Xian's mouth. Even she herself could not accept this. What right did he have to force Dmo Xian to accept it? Because I love you too much. So he cared too much. Because he cared too much. Therefore no one else could get their hands on it. "I'm sorry." Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and apologized in a low voice. Dmo Xian's hand slid away from her chin. One of his hands was still on her shoulder. Yiqing Luo lowered her head and couldn't see the man's expression. He could only hear a soft sigh of helplessness above his head. Just as the atmosphere between the two of them gradually warmed up. Zhu Xian, who was standing on the original spot, gazing deeply at Yiqing Luo, suddenly opened his mouth. "My hand hurts a lot." There was not the slightest fluctuation in his voice, nor did he sound like he was in pain. Yiqing Luo raised her head slightly as she glanced sideways at Zhu Xian. "Yiqing Luo, my right palm is extremely painful." Zhu Xian was extremely serious as he repeated this sentence. Yiqing Luo's vision drooped downwards as she looked at Zhu Xian's right hand, which was hanging by his side. That was the hand that was fused into the human skin's body just now. Pain? Was it because the human skin had started to invade Zhu Xian's body? "If you don't come over and help me up, I might die from the pain." Zhu Xian continued speaking expressionlessly. Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffened slightly. Chapter 3078. Her heart trembled. She shut her eyes fiercely as she hugged Dmo Xian's waist. "Let's go back to the palace." There was no need for her to hesitate any further. As a woman who had already decided to stay for life and had a fiancé, she indeed shouldn't have given Zhu Xian any hope. She couldn't do it herself to accept a lady who adored Dmo Xian by his side. She couldn't ask Dmo Xian to do it. He couldn't be that selfish. Towards Zhu Xian. Right from the start she had already expressed it very clearly. But Zhu Xian continued to do things his own way, ignoring her wishes. He had to pester her endlessly. She could only say her apologies. To her, no one was more important than Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo held Dmo Xian's arm and was about to leave. The man next to her stopped in his tracks with no intention to leave. Yiqing Luo raised her head in puzzlement as she looked at Dmo Xian. "Ah Xian, what's the matter?" Dmo Xian's slender fingers caressed her cheek. His narrow peach blossom eyes were filled with a deep glint as his thin lips curled into a smile. His eyes seemed to be filled with a pool of spring water. "Silly lass." He sighed softly as his low and hoarse voice was filled with unspeakable pampering. I stopped you because I wanted to see what kind of place I occupy in your heart. Diamo Xian's voice became deeper. A faint magnetism passed through her eardrums. It numbed Yiqing Luo's heart. Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffened slightly as she looked at Diamo Xian's charming eyes as she blinked. Diamo Xian's arms tightened as he hugged her petite body tightly in his arms. He rested his chin on her shoulder. Getting closer. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the man's warm breath, spraying on her skin. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled slightly, as though something was tightly clasping her heart. It made her unable to describe what feeling she was feeling. She pursed her pink lips as she was about to say something. The man's thin lips came closer as his voice became softer. Sorry. I know I'm wrong, I shouldn't have tested your feelings towards me. He could tell. There was a hint of caution in his voice that was hard to detect. That tone which was filled with guilt made the words which Yiqing Luo wanted to say stuck in her throat. Seeing that Yiqing Luo remained silent, Diamo Xian's tone became even more aggrieved as his arms wrapped even tighter. It's my pride causing mischief, it's my imagination that ran wild testing your heart, Lil Luo. I really know I'm in the wrong, can you forgive me? Towards Yiqing Luo's feelings towards him. It wasn't that Diamo Xian wasn't confident. It was just that Zhou Xian had appeared. This caused him to be extremely displeased. Because I love you too much. That was why he couldn't help but probe. Hearing Diamo Xian's slightly coquettish tone, Yiqing Luo didn't have any other thoughts in her heart at this moment. Diamo Xian was probing. It would indeed make her feel very uncomfortable. But this was also because of Zhou Xian's appearance. Other men such as Gu Jingyu. Because he knew that she had no connection with Gu Jingyu or any other man. There was no possibility of further development. But Zhou Xian was different. The person whom Zhou Xian adored was the former Yiqing Luo. After that he saved her time and time again. It could be said that no matter if it was the promise in the past or the current life-saving feelings, she was unable to really treat Zhou Xian coldly. Chapter 3079. She put herself in his shoes. She thought that she would definitely make the same attempt. Although Zhu Wuxia was a busybody and reaped what he sowed, but after all, it was because he helped you to block the attack from the human face. Diamo Xian continued to speak. His tone was filled with disdain towards Zhu Wuxia. Diamo Xian shot a glance at Zhu Wuxia in disdain and as though declaring he kept the young lady in his arms. If he really dies here today, I'm afraid that you will remember him for the rest of your life. Hearing the man's childish words, Yiqing Luo was speechless. But a certain softness in her heart was slowly covered by warmth. In the knowledge of love, she and Diamo Xian were both beginners. They had to take one step at a time to slowly learn the lesson of love. How could she bear to blame Diamo Xian? Between the both of them, all sorts of pink bubbles started to spread. Zhu Wuxian's chilly voice broke the atmosphere. I mean, if I can make her remember me for the rest of her life, it's not bad to die here. Yiqing Luo, what on earth was this rascal trying to do? Diamo Xian's expression sunk. His icy cold gaze looked towards Zhu Wuxia as he sneered. If you want to die, this lord can fulfill your wish, but absolutely not now. Zhu Wuxian's chilly eyes met with Diamo Xian's as his lips curled upwards. Both parties were aggressive and no one was willing to give in. Not too far away, Ale and Ah Feng were already dumbstruck as they looked at their own master in a daze. Previously they had heard Ah Feng talk about how the overlord had thrown away his high and mighty overlord status and face in front of their future mistress, turning into a loyal dog. They had always felt that Ah Feng had been bribed by their future mistress, hence he would speak up for her. But today they had seen it with their own eyes. Then they understood. Ah Feng was absolutely not exaggerating. The overlord was in front of their future mistress. He didn't care about his face at all. Ever since they could remember, they had been following the overlord's identity for more than 10 years. This was the first time they saw the overlord being so gentle, so childish. Looked like the day when their future mistress would become the mistress of the imperial palace was not far away. Cough. Yiqing Luo looked at the atmosphere between the both of them and coughed lightly. The both of you? How much longer do you intend to stare at me? Diamo Xian hugged Yiqing Luo's slender waist tightly as he snorted coldly and retracted his gaze. Zhu Wuxian's eyes were cold. He slowly moved his gaze away. Then, He let out a soft snort from his nostrils. Yiqing Luo, these two people were really like a pair of enemies. Who knows, they might even be able to develop a romantic relationship between two lovers. This thought made Yiqing Luo look at Zhou Xian and Zhu Wuxia. Her gaze was filled with a strange emotion. She shook her head and tossed those messy thoughts out of her head. All right. The most important thing now is to deal with the matter of the human face skin. If the human face skin remains in Zhu Wuxian's body, it will ultimately be a hidden danger. She raised her head and looked at Zhou Xian. To prove my innocence, I won't check on his arm, so you go ahead. Zhou Xian shot a disdainful glance at Zhu Wuxia. I don't want. Zhu Wuxia opened his mouth coldly. Yiqing Luo, I'm doing this to save you. You should take care of me personally. Ha. Zhou Xian gave a cold laugh as he released Yiqing Luo's waist and walked directly towards Zhu Wuxia. Chapter 3080. It's not up to you whether you want it or not. Zhou Xian sneered. Zhu Wuxia, you'd better get it straight, Lil Luo. Or is this sovereign's woman? Zhu Wuxian's expression was cold. So what? She used to be mine and she will be mine in the future. Zhou Xian's gaze turned cold. Stop your wishful thinking. A man who only knows how to pester, Lil Luo, or will hate you even more. It doesn't matter if I hate her. Zhu Wuxian didn't care. As long as she's by my side, that's enough. Do you think you have that chance? Zhou Xian sneered. The murderous intent in his eyes kept surging. Yiqing Luo, who was standing by the side, looked at the both of them. Because of checking the facial skin of the arm man, they were pushing and dodging each other. Then both sides drew their swords and it seemed like they were about to fight at any moment. Yiqing Luo felt that these two men should be hard to get along with each other peacefully, right? It was better to quickly settle the matter of human face and send Zhu Wuxian away. She coughed again, interrupting the electric current between them. Zhu Wuxian, the human face skin has just entered your body. It's still possible to take it out now. Hearing Yiqing Luo's voice, the two of them who were at loggerheads shifted their sights onto Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxia narrowed his cold eyes and his brows rose as he stretched out his right hand towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Take, you can. But I want you to help me. Zhou Xian's face immediately turned black. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. He really knew how to take advantage of others. Glancing at Zhou Xian's foul expression, Yiqing Luo naturally couldn't really go up to help Zhu Wuxia. She pursed her pink lips and shook her head solemnly. The human face mask's target is me. If I help you take out the human face mask, I'll be giving it another chance to attack me. She paused for a moment, then continued seriously. Xian is the best choice because his power is enough to suppress human skin. Zhu Wuxian's expression turned colder. The coldness between her brows seemed to have thickened a little. His lips were tightly pursed into a straight line. Seeing the displeasure on Zhu Wuxian's face, Zhou Xian was delighted. He raised his peach blossom eyes. If you don't want to die, give me your hand. Zhu Wuxian did not move. He pursed his lips tightly and his whole body exuded a cold aura. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she emphasized her tone. Zhu Wuxia, the reason why you were taken advantage of by that shameless person is because of me, so I can stand here and patiently advise you. But I've already done my best to advise you. If you really want to die, if you really want to be controlled by someone else's face, then it has nothing to do with me. You won't care about me anymore? He abruptly raised his head as his cold eyes met Yiqing Luo's gaze. Yes. Yiqing Luo replied coldly. Zhu Wuxian's eyes trembled and a piercingly cold light flowed in his eyes. There was a moment of silence. He raised his right hand and stretched it out in front of Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian gave a cold laugh as he mercilessly pulled Zhu Wuxian's wrist over. Then the wind from his palm moved, and the gathered profound energy seeped into Zhu Wuxian's arm, searching for the movement of the human face. His actions were fast, ruthless and accurate. It totally didn't give Zhu Wuxian any time to adapt. A series of actions. Although Zhu Wuxian didn't make any sound. But from the cold sweat on his forehead and the tightly creased brows, it was obvious that he was enduring the pain. Yiqing Luo looked at the both of them anxiously. It was until roughly 1 incense's time later, Zhou Xian released Zhu Wuxian's arm. Chapter 3081. Zhu Wuxian seemed as though he had lost all his energy as he staggered backwards with a pale face. His right arm hung loosely by the side of his body. His cold eyes lifted up slightly, coincidentally facing Yiqing Luo's figure. He looked at Yiqing Luo as he stretched out his little hand and pressed it gently on Diamo Xian's chest. That devastatingly beautiful face was filled with worry. He heard Yiqing Luo asking Diamo Xian in a low voice if he felt uncomfortable anywhere. Like. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with Diamo Xian alone. Zhu Wuxia lowered his eyes as he fixed his gaze on his right arm. The one who was injured was obviously him, wasn't it? The one who should be cared for should be him, wasn't it? Why? Yiqing Luo's first concern was Diamo Xian? Was this the difference between love and not love? Zhu Wuxia only felt that the air seemed to have solidified. He even found it difficult to breathe. Every breath he took, his heart felt as though it was being gripped tightly, so painful that his face turned pale. Just as Zhu Wuxia felt that his heart was being torn apart, eroding him. A voice suddenly rang beside his ear. Zhu Wuxia, is your arm in pain? Why are you sweating so much? This voice was like the sound of nature as it instantly soothed the tearing pain in his heart. It was like a warm current filling up his heart. This strange feeling made Zhu Wuxia feel extremely unfamiliar. But when he raised his eyes, his pupils reflected the young lady's devastatingly beautiful face. He totally didn't have any sense of resistance. Seeing Zhu Wuxia staring at himself, not saying a word for some time. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as she got a little anxious. Zhu Wuxia? Have you turned silly from the pain or something? Why aren't you saying anything? Zhu Wuxia's eyelashes moved. His cold eyes were flowing with light. He collected his eyes and slowly puffed out a gust of air from his nostrils. This gust of air was simply too soft. Yiqing Luo didn't hear it clearly as she looked at him in puzzlement. Zhu Wuxia repeated, "My right hand is in pain. Earlier when he tugged my hand he used a lot of force. I suspect that he wants to destroy my right hand." As he was saying that, Zhu Wuxia's icy cold gaze looked towards Diamo Xian. Yiqing Luo expressed that to use such a calm as still water tone to complain, this feeling, was really awkward. Zhu Wuxian lowered his head again and looked at his right hand that could not be moved. He said, "If you don't take care of me, my right hand might be broken by him tomorrow." Yiqing Luo. She was just about to express that it was rare for Zhu Wuxia to say such a long speech. Then he heard Zhu Wuxian's next sentence. Yiqing Luo face-palmed speechlessly. "Young man, isn't this your motive?" He could even complain to her with a straight face, rubbing his nose against her face. It could be seen that Zhu Wuxian was not really about to die of pain like he said. She simply retracted her gaze and looked at Diamo Xian. "Ah Xian, can the human face be taken out?" "I can't take it out." Diamo Xian held her in his arms as his tone was cold. "I'm not joking. The only way to make the human face skin leave the body is if the human face skin willingly leaves the body. Even if I use my strength to force it, if it's not willing, the one who gets hurt will only be Zhu Wuxia. Still, it couldn't be done. Could it be that if the human face skin was unwilling to leave, then Zhu Wuxia would have to suffer the erosion of the human face skin? If it was controlled by that human face skin. She wasn't sure if she could do anything to Zhu Wuxia. Furthermore, Chapter 3082. Qi was extremely harmful to the human body. If it stayed in a person's body for a long period of time, Zhu Wuxia's body would definitely be greatly affected. The human face skin in Zhu Wuxia's body won't be able to hide for long. Diamo Xian's large palm covered Yiqing Luo's head as he gently rubbed it. His peripheral vision glanced sideways at Zhu Wuxia as his lips tugged coldly. The nutrients that the human face skin needs can only be absorbed through the human face. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. "I understand. The human face skin in Zhu Wuxia's body has no way to absorb Zhu Wuxia's nutrients. The human face skin needs nutrients to maintain its own consciousness, as well as the absorption of Qi." Diamo Xian explained patiently. "Once the human face skin's nutrients are completely depleted, it will automatically leave Zhu Wuxia's body. By then, the human face skin which has lost its nutrients totally has no energy to resist." Yiqing Luo hugged Diamo Xian's arm. "Then wait for the human face skin to leave Zhu Wuxia's body on its own. How long does it take for the human face skin's nutrients to be depleted?" Mentioning this question, Diamo Xian's face instantly turned black. After some time he squeezed out a sentence. "Based on the human face skin's ability, at least half a month, at most 3 to 4 months." Yiqing Luo was stunned. When her vision swept past Zhu Wuxian, she suddenly understood why Dmo Xian's face suddenly turned black. The human face skin was hiding in Zhu Wuxian's body. They wanted to control the human face skin and find the clues behind the human face skin from it. They must wait for the human face skin to leave Zhu Wuxian's body and take the opportunity to control it. But when the human face skin would leave Zhu Wuxian's body was totally uncertain. This also meant that they must keep Zhu Wuxian by their side, constantly paying attention to the human face skin hiding in Zhu Wuxian's body. Apart from being able to restrain a person's face in time when it falls off, it was also to prevent the human face skin from quietly leaving when they were not around and then make a comeback. After all, this human face skin was not only disgusting, it was also extremely disturbing. To make Zhu Wuxian stay by their side for half a month to a few months. No wonder Dmo Xian's expression was so ugly. This was indeed a difficult problem. Could it be? Were they really going to let Zhu Wuxian stay by their side until they lost their dignity? Based on the way Zhu Wuxian and Dmo Xian interacted with each other, Yiqing Luo expressed, the two of them would definitely start fighting at any moment. Just as Yiqing Luo was filled with anxiety. Suddenly, a beam of golden light fell from the sky from the underworld palace that was emitting a dark green light. It landed on the rock wall and cut open a huge hole. Everyone was startled and they looked at the sudden golden light with vigilance. When Yiqing Luo's gaze met that golden light, her slender brows creased tightly. This golden light, this hole, why does he look so familiar? He had a feeling that he had seen it somewhere before. Yiqing Luo swiftly searched through her memories in her mind. Just as he was about to catch something, the huge hole that was flickering with golden light suddenly opened to both sides. Soon after, a dozen golden figures walked out from the opening. The dozen or so figures were extremely fast. It was neat and orderly. But in a blink of an eye, they were already standing neatly in front of Yiqing Luo and the others. 10 over people were dressed in golden shiny armors, giving off a terrifying glow. Chapter 3083. Disdainful of all living beings, arrogant imposing manner, even the air froze in awe. Their appearance was like 1,000 catty boulder, pressing down one by one. Even the usually flamboyant and fearless underworld palaces people all widened their eyes in horror. It's you. Yiqing Luo's vision fell onto the man who was standing right in front. That man had a solemn expression with an upright and plain-spoken expression. When he saw Yiqing Luo, the man's eyes revealed an astonished look. Librarian of Balance. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a sweet smile. Long time no see. These 10 over people were not others. They were the Librarian of Balance who was attracted by the eruption of her profound jade heart during the battle in the West Continent. The man in the lead was the Librarian of Balance whom she had met the last time. He was also the boss of these 10 over Librarian of Balance. You. The librarian stared at Yiqing Luo, his vision swept across her body, and immediately fell onto the bloody Bai Mei who was lying on the ground. He frowned and spoke solemnly, "You are the one who she reported, using illegal means to sneak into the upper realm from the lower realm?" From Yiqing Luo's body, the librarian didn't feel that she had the qualifications to be in the earth realm. But, thinking of Yiqing Luo, that mysterious power, the librarian's expression had some changes. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened, her long and narrow eyes also curved. It should be. My father, seems that among the people present only I am from the lower realm. The 10 over librarian behind him had met Yiqing Luo previously in the West Continent. They were also clear that their own librarian seemed to have some misgivings towards Yiqing Luo. Hearing that the person who was reported was her, each of their faces revealed a complicated expression. According to the main god's law, as a person from the lower realm, sneaking into the upper realm has already violated the peace between the realms. Moreover, you were reported by someone from the earth realm, so I have the right to bring you back to the heavenly realm for investigation. The librarian looked at Yiqing Luo solemnly. Miss Yi, I believe you won't make things difficult for me. Yiqing Luo raised her brows with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Of course, this is your duty. Many thanks to Yiqing Luo for seeing the big picture. Librarian saw that Yiqing Luo wasn't as eloquent as the previous time, which made him unable to rebuke her and even cooperated with her, so he heaved a sigh of relief. Possible. He really didn't want to meet Yiqing Luo again. The librarian didn't want to complicate matters further, so he immediately picked up the shackles and walked towards Yiqing Luo. But before the historian could even get close to Yiqing Luo, a majestic and terrifying dark force rose from the ground. Transforming into bursts of profound waves, it laid horizontally in front of Yiqing Luo, blocking the historical administrator's footsteps. The scribe stopped in his tracks and looked in the direction where the profound energy had come from with a dark expression. It's been a long time since we last met. Are the scribes of the heavenly law realm capable of taking away my people right under my nose? His low, husky, magnetic voice was extremely intimidating. Zhou Xian's sleeves fluttered and the profound energy that was stirring up on the ground turned into a hurricane as it struck out. The historian was forced to take a few steps back. When the scribe heard the voice, his face was filled with shock. He looked in the direction of the voice. In his pupils, a tall figure was reflected. The purple robe fluttered as though it had opened up a pair of wings, overflowing with splendor and glaring. When the historian's vision fell onto that person's face, his entire person was stunned on the spot. Chapter 3084. The historiographer's heart thumped hard. Since the last time in the West Continent, the historiographer knew that this lady named Yiqing Luo had some kind of relationship with that mysterious and respectable overlord. Perhaps she was just a pet that the overlord used to pass the time. But the historiographer had never thought of this. The Lord Dizun, who could make the realm lord of the heavenly law realm retreat when the name of Dizun was mentioned, he actually fell in love with a lady from the lower realm. If it wasn't for the fact that he had personally witnessed the overlord holding Yiqing Luo in his arms with a tender and loving look, the historiographer and the other historians would absolutely not believe it. Although Yiqing Luo was indeed devastatingly beautiful as a flower, but she was after all a lady from the lower realm. The overlord's status was respectable. How could a lady from the lower realm be worthy of him? The expressions of the historiographer and the other historians were extremely complicated and unpredictable. My little Luo is kind-hearted and doesn't want to make things difficult for you. Zhou Xian's low voice rang again, but I don't care if you make things difficult for me. His voice was as calm as water, extremely calm. But when the historiographer and the other historians heard it, they suddenly felt a chill from the soles of their feet to their heads. The historiographer's expression was extremely ugly. I am only following orders. Zhou Xian's thin lips curled frivolously. Following orders? If the historiographer is really such a person who values orders and missions, then you wouldn't easily let go of someone who should be arrested, isn't it? His voice revealed a trace of ridicule. The historiographer broke out in cold sweat. Zhou Xian's words had a hidden meaning. The historiographer heard it clearly. It looked like the last time when he was about to capture the Dark Forces people, the news of them being abducted halfway when they were heading to the heavenly realm, the overlord already knew about it. The historiographer tried his best to restrain the panic in his heart and tried his best to remain calm. Since the overlord has spoken personally, I guess this matter is just a misunderstanding. He waved his hand and led his men to retreat towards the golden opening. Retreat. When the court officials saw Zhou Xian, they knew that their mission would not be completed today. Immediately, they retreated behind the scribe in an orderly manner. Wait. The young girl's clear voice was clear and pleasant to listen to. The dozen or so scribes immediately stopped in their tracks. The young lady leaned into Zhou Xian's arms as she lazily raised her slender brows and smiled lazily. It's rare for me to meet Mr. Librarian. Why is Mr. Librarian in such a hurry to leave? The prefect's back stiffened and cold sweat oozed from his forehead. He turned around stiffly and said, Miss Yi, we still have other tasks and it's not convenient for us to stay any longer. Isn't the Keeper of Scribes on a mission? Yiqing Luo tilted her head in puzzlement and smiled innocently. After all, I'm indeed not from the Earth domain and was reported by someone. Why didn't you investigate clearly and just let me go? This is a misunderstanding. The scribe's brain spun rapidly as he tried to think of a way to explain. We received a report and rushed here because we were worried that someone would use illegal means to sneak into the land. This would affect the balance between the land and the mortal world. But Miss Yi is the lover of His Majesty, so she definitely did not use illegal means. Chapter 3085. Right. How would they dare to say anything wrong? Yiqing Luo smiled. This smile, as compared to the previous languid smile, was a little more strange. It was obviously a beautiful smile. However, the historiographer only felt a creepy feeling spread in his heart. As expected, Yiqing Luo smiled lightly and said, "Since the matter between me and the heavenly Dao realm has been settled, then now it's time for the matter between you and me to settle it properly." The historian's expression congealed. Miss Yi, what matter do you want to settle with me?" Yiqing Luo's lips curled up as she smiled sweetly. Without beating around the bush, she stared at the historian's eyes and spat out 4 words. Dark, dark, force, force. Indeed, the historian's face sunk slightly. He shifted his gaze and frowned. This matter. Heaven realm has already formulated a corresponding decision. Miss Yi need not ask any further. Did you not hear me clearly, Keeper of the Annals? Yiqing Luo's smile deepened. What I said is, the matter between me and you has nothing to do with Heaven realm. The historian's expression congealed. Yiqing Luo continued to smile. Initially, I trusted Librarian Overseer and wasn't willing to make things difficult for you, so I handed over the dark forces, that bunch of motley crew as well as Yuhan, to you. But how did Librarian Overseer betray my trust towards you? Her tone was very calm and there was a hint of a sweet smile on her face. A pair of smiling eyes stared deeply at him. But the more Yiqing Luo behaved in this manner, the more the historian felt, the more apprehensive he was. He was unwilling to admit that he was scared by a 15-year-old young lady. But the truth was so. His fingers tightened as he spoke with a steely expression. This matter is my responsibility, but I didn't intentionally let them go. Yiqing Luo kept her smile as she squinted her eyes. Her face exuded some coldness. Explain clearly what happened that day. That bunch of people from the Dark Forces and Yuhan, other than the Wolf Saint technique, should have been brought to the Heaven realm by the historian and imprisoned in the Heaven prison. But the people from the Dark Forces, not only were they not imprisoned, instead they joined the secluded palace. They stirred up all sorts of trouble. In addition, Yuhan was also jumping around. Even if the historian of balance didn't come looking for her, she wanted to ask the balance historian what was going on. The historiographer's expression was very ugly. The events of that day, could be said that this was the most embarrassing moment in his history as the balance palm. If it wasn't for the fact that the Heaven Dao Realm Master didn't care about this matter, he might not be able to sit still in his position as the historiographer. The scribe frowned and wanted to avoid this topic. But when he felt Zhou Xian's chilly gaze, like a sharp blade, cutting into his body, in the end he couldn't withstand the pressure and told them what had happened that day. Mysterious power. After hearing what the librarian said, Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as she muttered these 4 words. She raised her head and looked at Zhou Xian. Xian, these things based on your strength, can you do it? The heavenly Dao rope was inexplicably severed. An invisible force formed a barrier that prevented the scribe and the other scribes from chasing after the dark forces in Yuhan. To be able to do this under the situation of not showing their faces, could be seen how powerful the person behind this was. Chapter 3086. That means to say, the person who kidnapped the dark forces has the same ability as you. Yiqing Luo's tone was solemn. In this world, there shouldn't be many people who have the same ability as you. The historian of balance could travel between the various planes and maintain the balance of each plane. It was enough to prove that the historian of balance's ability was absolutely not weak. However, that invisible power was able to easily stop the historian of balance. To be able to snatch someone from the hands of hundreds of historian of balance, without harming a single soldier, making the historian of balance could only watch helplessly, unable to do anything to resist. His ability was absolutely on par with Zhou Xian. At least he was in existence around Zhou Xian's level. I am also one of them. Being left aside, Zhu Wuxia, who had no sense of existence for a long time, frowned as he spoke in a cold voice. His icy cold eyes fixed on Yiqing Luo. My ability is not any worse than him and I can totally snatch you from his hands. Yiqing Luo. Her slender brows creased tightly as she stared at Zhu Wuxia in a bad mood. Let's talk about serious matters, don't mess things up. Saying that, her vision returned back to Zhou Xian. Xian, think about it, is there anyone whose ability is similar to yours? There's always someone better out there. There are many people who are stronger than me. Zhou Xian shook his head, but currently in my memory, I have not met such a person. Yiqing Luo. Did he need to be so confident? Just how powerful was her man? Roaming around various planes, yet he had not met anyone who had the same ability as him? No wonder. The overlord who made the upper realm tremble in fear. Awesome. Librarian took the opportunity to ask, the matter has been explained clearly. Can we go back to report? Of course. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly as she nodded. Librarian was still hesitant, afraid that Yiqing Luo would play some tricks. More than a dozen people carefully moved towards the golden opening. But they heard a young lady's voice coming from behind. That's right. Librarian's heart suddenly tightened. Why is Librarian so nervous? I'm just reminding Librarian in case in future heavenly realm will bear the infamy. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. Her voice was gentle as though it didn't have any lethality. The Librarian turned around and forced a smile. Please enlighten me, Miss Yi. Looking at the treasurer who was obviously filled with melancholy but still forced a smile, Yiqing Luo's smile grew wider. The feeling of bullying others with force was not bad at all. The heavenly law realm exists to maintain the balance between the major realms. You also exist to maintain the balance between the major realms. After Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, her tone turned solemn. I believe that all of you are aware of the recent changes in the Nirvana realm. If someone really wants to use the Nirvana realm to destroy the balance of the various realms, after all the plans are implemented, even if all the historians of the heavenly law realm are mobilized, I'm afraid it will be useless. The historiographer's bitter expression froze and his eyes turned solemn. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. That's all I have to say, the rest is up to you. The librarian's expression was complicated. His lips moved, but in the end he didn't say anything. He just cupped his fists. Librarian Lord, don't be in such a hurry to leave. Suddenly, another spiritual body floated over. Chapter 3087. Bye. The historiographer's lips trembled and his eyes widened as if he wanted to say something. Baisu's spiritual body floated and interrupted him. Historiographer, are you forgetting something? The historiographer's words were stuck in his throat. However, his eyes were fixed on Baisu without blinking. Then he stammered, Forgetting what? Baisu smiled. Are you pretending not to notice the will-wisp candles around here? Such insidious things appearing in the underworld palace, and there are at least 1,000 of them. Isn't this a violation of the balance of the land? The historiographer's expression changed. Naturally, they had sensed the waves of yin qi coming from all directions. However, the historiographer hesitated for a moment and said cautiously, the will-wisp candles are indeed insidious, but it is also true that they belong to the land. This is not within our scope of responsibility. Baisu raised her eyebrows and crossed her arms in front of her chest. There was a layer of coldness on her beautiful face. It's not within your scope of responsibility and you don't care? This. The historiographer felt a headache coming on. Why was he so unlucky today? When he received a report from the land, he thought it was just someone from the lower bound who used some forbidden means to come to the land in pursuit of power. It was just a small matter. Unexpectedly, they were all people he could not afford to offend. And each one was more difficult to deal with than the other. In the face of Baisu's aggressiveness, the historiographer was full of anxiety. After a long while, he forced himself to say, This is indeed not within our scope of responsibility. Even if we want to do something, we can't. After saying this, the historiographer stared at Baisu's expression and immediately said, However, when I return to the heavenly law realm, I will definitely report this matter to the realm lord, and then the realm lord will report it to the upper bound. That was what Baisu had been waiting for. She stretched out her transparent hand and slowly patted the historiographer's shoulder. The hand of a spiritual body could not touch a physical body. However, the historiographer felt a huge pressure. It was as if a 1,000-kilogram boulder was pressing heavily on his shoulder. In that case, I'll have to trouble Lord Keeper of the Historiography to report this matter to the upper realms. Baisu's voice was light as if she was having a casual chat. The librarian felt a chill down his spine. He nodded vigorously, Yes, of course. Baisu moved her hand away with a smile. Miss Bai, is there anything else? The scribe looked at Baisu's expression and asked tentatively. Baisu continued to smile, Yes. The librarian. He was so tired that he didn't want to resist anymore. Bai Su glanced at Bai Mei, who was lying on the ground with a badly mutilated face. Bai Mei made a false report to the heavenly realm because of her personal grudges, slandering Yiqing Luo for using extraordinary means to sneak into the earth realm and obstructing the normal order of the court officials. Shouldn't the court official handle this matter? The scribe followed Bai Su's line of sight. When he saw Bai Mei's terrifying face, he frowned. Chapter 3088. The scribe was speechless. If he hadn't seen Bai Su's domineering side just now, the scribe might have been deceived by Bai Su. But now, hearing Bai Su's words, the scribe knew Bai Su's purpose clearly. He coughed softly and gave the two scribes behind him a look. The scribe understood and immediately stepped forward. He lifted Bai Mei up from the ground from both sides. Bai Mei, who had been mourning for her face, suddenly struggled. "Sister, you can't do this to me. I've lost my face and you still want to lock me up in the realm of heavenly law. How can you be so cruel?" Bai Mei cried. Bai Su cried even more helplessly than her. "I don't want to do this, but I don't have time to accompany you and I can't discipline you, so I let you do such a thing. Your body, hair and skin belong to your parents. But you actually used this kind of method to change your face. Not only that, but you also absorbed yin qi, hurt others and destroyed yourself." However, Bai Mei didn't listen to Bai Su at all, and the words she said became even more unpleasant. Her face was forcibly torn off from her face. As she spoke, the blood on her face kept rolling down. Bai Su turned her head as if she couldn't bear to see Bai Mei like this. She sobbed and said, "Now, in order to frame His Majesty's lover, you even made a false report. If not for His Majesty's kindness, if not, the consequences would not be as simple as being locked up. I'm trying to save you." Speaking of this, she was already choking with sobs. "Mr. Scribe, I'll leave my sister to you. You don't have to respect me or His Majesty. As long as you can teach her what to do and what not to do, you can do whatever you want." Bai Su took a deep breath and waved her hand. "I hope Mr. Scribe can take good care of my poor sister. When her transformation is successful, I'll personally go to thank you and take her home." Bai Mei's screams and insults became even more unpleasant. Her face was covered with blood and her white dress was dyed red. The scribe was also worried that if she stayed any longer she would be involved in a series of things. Immediately, he called out to the scribe and carried Bai Mei to the direction of the golden entrance. Fortunately, this time no one stopped him. After the scribe disappeared through the golden opening with the other scribes, the golden light that illuminated the underworld palace also gradually dissipated. The interior of the underworld palace was once again enveloped by a dark green light. The gloomy and eerie atmosphere had returned. All right, everyone has left and the matter should be settled. Let's disperse." Bai Su drifted over leisurely, her slightly transparent spirit body wrapped tightly around Yiqing Luo. Bai Su's beautiful eyes sized up Yiqing Luo without blinking. He seemed to be examining something. Yiqing Luo wasn't used to this feeling and took a few steps back unnaturally. "Didn't you scram? Why did you come back?" Dmo Xian pulled Yiqing Luo into his arms, blocking Bai Su's sight. Bai Su floated backward and shrugged. "My poor sister is still here. If you kill her in a fit of anger, I will lose my poor sister, won't I?" Yiqing Luo popped her head out from Dmo Xian's embrace. Chapter 3089. But Bai Su's words were indeed true. If she hadn't returned, even if Dmo Xian didn't kill Bai Mei, those people from Hell Palace would not let Bai Mei off. After all, Bai Mei's human face was obviously in cahoots with Ghostfire Candle. Then Bai Mei would be in cahoots with Dark Palace, who made use of Hell Palace. All along they were the ones who made use of others and hurt others. Now they had been schemed against. Everyone from Hell Palace was suppressing a raging fire in their hearts. If it wasn't for the fact that Dmo Xian and Bai Su were around, they might not be able to hold it in and vent their anger on Bai Mei. Dmo Xian squinted his long peach blossom eyes and didn't bother about Bai Su as he looked at the person in his arms. "How do you want to settle the people from Hell Palace?" Could be said that with Dmo Xian around, even if Yiqing Luo killed the people from Hell Palace in the Earth Realm, the balance historian wouldn't come looking for trouble. Presumably, that historian didn't want to meet Yiqing Luo anymore. Yiqing Luo wrapped one arm around his waist as she pondered for a moment. "Temporarily. Don't kill them." The people from Hell Palace had been made use of by Dark Palace. In terms of revenge, Xiaba and Ling Yan, these two proud and arrogant people, had been crippled. They had become useless people who needed people to serve them even when they were eating, drinking, and defecating. To them this was the most severe punishment. As for the others, since Dark Palace liked to play such tricks, she might as well retaliate. Like Hell Palace, a place where the united and fearless lunatics gathered. Just like Dark Palace, they were perverts who liked to cultivate those sinister forbidden cultivation methods. After finding out that Dark Palace had schemed against them, they wanted to use their power to nurture Xianxia in human face. How could they possibly let Dark Palace off? Dark Palace wanted to make use of Hell Palace to deal with her and Zhou Xian. Then, they could also make use of Hell Palace to deal with Dark Palace. Apparently, Zhou Xian had the same thought as her. The two of them smiled at each other as their brows were filled with warmth and sweetness. Cough. Cough, cough. A hurried cough was heard. The two of them immediately looked over. Zhou Xian's face was cold as he raised his right hand. My hand hurts. Zhou Xian's brows creased slightly as he squinted his peach blossom eyes in displeasure. Do you know pain? Yiqing Luo squinted at him. You deserve to die from the pain. If it wasn't for the fact that he refused to let go of her, how could a human face have the chance to hide in his body? Why did he cause so much trouble? Now, in order to force Zhou Wuxin out of his skin, who knew how long he had to keep Zhou Wuxin by their side? Not to mention that between Zhou Wuxin and Zhou Xian, there was a possibility that a fight could break out anytime. Let's talk about what happened in the Nirvana realm. About the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Regarding the corpse puppets. The matter of gathering sacred beast pearls. She simply did not have any extra time to take care of Zhou Wuxin. Zhou Wuxin's face became even darker and colder. You think that I shouldn't be in pain? Can you stop messing around? Towards Zhou Xian's train of thought, Yiqing Luo was rather helpless. Given Zhou Wuxin's character, she couldn't tell him directly that she wasn't the person who had made a promise to him when they were young. Zhou Wuxin was the kind of person who would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. If he knew that she had taken over the original Yiqing Luo's body, then there was a high possibility that they would become enemies. Becoming enemies with Zhou Wuxin was absolutely a headache. Zhou Wuxin's eyes were sinister and his deep cold eyes were deep and gloomy. Chapter 3090. Zhou Xian's action made Yiqing Luo turn pale with fright. Just as that palm was about to strike Zhou Xian's right hand, suddenly, a ray of purple light flashed past. It set off a profound wave in the air, blocking Zhou Xian's palm. Zhou Xian retracted his hand as his brows were filled with impatience. If you want to die, then die further away. Don't dirty Lil Luo's eyes. Zhou Xian's left hand was immobilized by a ray of purple light. His face still bore an indifferent expression. Yiqing Luo frowned as she strode towards him. Zhou Xian, do you know what you're doing? Seeing her getting closer, Zhou Xian raised his head slightly. His thin lips curled up as he revealed an undetectable smile. On that cold face, the contours of his contours became gentler. His cold and deep eyes gazed deeply at her, as though he wanted to see her into his eyes, into the depths of his heart. That feeling made Yiqing Luo not feel used to it. You feel that it's wrong for the human face skin to merge into my body. I want to chop off my right hand in this way. The human face skin will no longer be in my body. His thin lips moved slightly as his voice was extremely icy cold. But if one listened carefully, he could still tell the lightness and smiling intent in his tone. Yiqing Luo, this was probably a self-masochistic pervert? Why did she feel that? Was Zhou Xian using another method to flirt with her? She didn't like it and felt that it was wrong. So he wanted to chop off his own right hand so that she would like it, so that she wouldn't be angry? What kind of flirting technique was this? Who told him? She totally didn't feel touched all right. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she no longer had the energy to ridicule him. Towards Zhou Xian she couldn't see through what he was thinking. Her slender brows creased as she stared at Zhou Xian with a solemn expression as she said word by word. The human face skin is already in your body. This is an indisputable fact. What we need to do now is to wait for the human face skin to lose its nutrients and escape from your body before subduing it. I'm very serious and solemn, reminding you that it's not because you chop off your own hand that I will feel guilty and accept you. It's not that I'll pity you, sympathize with you, and accept you because you've made yourself miserable, and pitiful. Yiqing Luo's words were heavy. It was also blatantly shattering Zhou Wuxian's feelings for her. Seeing Zhou Wuxian's face turn pale, the light in his eyes dimmed. Yiqing Luo shifted her gaze away, not regretting what she had said. She gave Zhou Wuxian hope and then watched as Zhou Wuxian kept pestering her. This was truly cruel to Zhou Wuxian. If you don't love, don't give me hope. Also, don't be ambiguous. After a long while, Yiqing Luo saw that Zhou Wuxian didn't open his mouth for a long time, so she announced her decision. The human face skin is in your body, so before it leaves your body, you will stay by Xian and my side. Zhou Wuxian raised his head. His jet-black hair was scattered messily on his face. A faint smile appeared on his grave and stern face. All right, he replied. Yiqing Luo met with Zhou Wuxian's deep gaze, and that gaze contained some gentleness. She frowned, and in case Zhou Wuxian misunderstood anything, she explained, the human face skin's yin qi is very heavy. If you're controlled by the human face skin, at least Xian is able to suppress it, so we let you follow us. Amen. Zhou Wuxian swiftly responded. Chapter 3091. Why did it feel like Zhou Wuxian really wanted to stay by their side? However, since Zhou Wuxian was so cooperative, the rest could be ignored. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she looked at Zhou Wuxian. Then your death god castle as well as other matters, leave it to your trusted people to handle. You will return with us. She paused. Just as she was about to say the word Imperial Palace, she stopped herself. No, Zhou Wuxian and Xian were obviously not on friendly terms. It was not that she did not believe in Zhou Wuxian. But it was related to the Imperial Palace, it was related to Xian. If Zhou Wuxian entered the Arch Palace, he would know the correct location of the Arch Palace. Anything that would damage the Imperial Palace. She could not forgive Zhou Wuxian, nor could she forgive herself. She pursed her lips and was about to say, Three Springs Sect. Her delicate body was caught by a force, and her body was pulled into a warm embrace. When we arrive at the Arch Palace, just arrange a room for us. Xian cast a cold glance at Zhou Wuxian. The Imperial Palace's spiritual qi is able to suppress the yin energy in the human face, reducing the chances of you being controlled. Zhou Wuxian raised his eyebrows. His cold face was devoid of any emotion as he indifferently spat out a word. Oh. Following that, he shifted his gaze onto Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo frowned as she didn't want to continue tangling with Zhou Wuxian. She had said a few more words to Zhou Wuxian just now. She was so close to Dizun that she was already jealous. Let's return to Nirvana realm. Yiqing Luo wrapped her arms around Xian's waist as she spoke. Xian embraced her and both of them returned to the carriage. Zhou Wuxian's gaze was deeply fixated on Yiqing Luo's back, and it was until the veil blocked her figure before he lifted his foot and walked over. Before he even got close to the carriage. Alay and you were already standing in front of the sedan. Young Master Zhou, if you are exhausted, I can lend you my battle pet. Zhou Wuxian's gaze landed on the carriage. That's the exclusive seat of the Overlord and Madame. Alay deliberately emphasized the words Madame. Zhou Wuxian's brows furrowed indiscernibly. After pondering for a long time, he closed his eyes. Immediately after, a green light flashed and a deafening howl resounded. In front of him was a giant green wolf with fur that was as sharp as blades. His sharp fangs shone with a cold light under the dark green light. Zhou Wuxian leaped onto the back of the green wolf. Alay and you looked at Green Wolf's expression with a hint of surprise. But soon he put away the expression on his face and stood by the side of the carriage. Little Nine's tail moved. Dragging the carriage, it slowly floated in the air. Lord Dizun, Lady D. When the people from the Underworld Palace saw that they were planning to leave, they immediately grew anxious. Old Lai held his wound and staggered forward. Lord Overlord, Madam Emperor, these ghost fires. What should we do with the ghost fire candles? The rest of the people from the Underworld Palace also rushed forward. Lord Overlord, Madam Emperor, although the Underworld Palace has never been principled, we have our own rules. This time in the Nirvana realm, we, the Infernal Palace, are responsible for hurting the Lady D. Since the Lady D didn't pursue this matter, the Infernal Palace owes you a favor. If there's anything that you need the Infernal Palace's help with, the Infernal Palace will definitely go through water and tread on fire. Ghost fire candles. Whoever taught you how to make them, Find that person to help you settle these ghost fire candles. Yiqing Luo lifted the veil as she spoke in a calm tone. Chapter 3092. The faces of the people from the underworld palace turned solemn. After exchanging glances, they seemed to have understood the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words. A trace of viciousness flashed across Old Lie's eyes. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. We will definitely look for the Palace of Darkness and demand an answer. I only hope that when the time comes, you can still maintain your current thoughts. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes swept past the crowd from Underworld Palace calmly. That bunch of people from secluded Darkness Palace, not only are their methods outstanding, their control over people's hearts is also outstanding. In other words, if they came looking for them, the gloomy palace would naturally think of a way to appease them. The faces of the Underworld Palace's people were filled with anger. The human heart? We don't have a so-called heart. We were tricked by Gloomy Palace once, but we will not be tricked a second time. Yiqing Luo smiled. I hope so. Regardless of whether Miss Yi accepts it or not, according to the rules of the Hell Palace, the Hell Palace owes you a favor. In the future, if Miss Yi comes to the Earth domain and has any needs, the Underworld Palace will definitely do its best. The people of Underworld Palace insisted on their own rules. Of course, the reason why they chose to adhere to the rules of the Underworld Palace was not only because they had to abide by the rules that they themselves had set. Instead, the power behind Yiqing Luo. Everyone could see that. Although Yiqing Luo was just a lady from the lower realm. But the people around Yiqing Luo, each of their statuses was more impressive than the other. Even the historian of balance from the heavenly lower realm did not want to provoke her. No matter how unafraid they were of death, they weren't willing to become enemies with Yiqing Luo. Most importantly, they had a common enemy, Abyss Palace. Yiqing Luo and the rest left the Hell Palace. The carriage floated in the sky, followed by a huge green wolf. Through the veil, Yiqing Luo could clearly feel Zhou Xian's burning gaze. Yiqing Luo wanted to open her mouth several times to make Zhou Xian shift his gaze away. She was also worried that if she said it out loud, her boyfriend's vinegar jar would overturn again. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she leaned her petite body further into Demo Xian's arms. Demo Xian's long arm gently embraced her as he lowered his eyes to look at the person in his embrace. His deep inky eyes shot a cold glance at the person who was following behind him. A dark glint flashed across his eyes. Following that, he lowered his head and gently kissed Yiqing Luo's hair. Lil Luo, rest for a while, we'll reach the Imperial Palace very soon. Yiqing Luo didn't quite understand the meaning behind Demo Xian's words. Just as he was about to raise his head. But when he moved, she could smell the elegant sandalwood scent on the man's body. Bit by bit it surrounded her body. The smell of sandalwood was extremely elegant and intoxicating. Just as his body and mind relaxed, her eyelids became heavier and heavier. After that he fell into a deep slumber. Demo Xian lowered his eyes as he listened to the girl's gentle breathing. He gently moved the girl's body into a comfortable position in his arms. Then he raised a hand and his sleeve fluttered. In the blink of an eye, he took off his purple robe and wrapped it around the young girl's body. How much longer are you going to watch? Demo Xian hugged Yiqing Luo tightly as he spoke in a cold voice. Outside the carriage it was silent. Demo Xian's eyes turned cold as his voice turned even colder. No matter how you watch, Lil Luo will not be yours. Your actions will only make Lil Luo feel troubled. Perhaps it was because of the mention of Yiqing Luo. Outside the carriage, a huge shadow immediately shrouded over. Chapter 3093. Zhou Xian was lying on the back of the green wolf. The huge green wolf's thick fur wrapped around his body, revealing only his grave and stern face. Zhou Xian looked coldly at the two people in the carriage who were tightly hugging each other. His black eyes shone with a deep light. If it bothers you, give her back to me. His voice was calm and cold. As long as she's mine, she won't be troubled. Zhou Xian's words made Demo Xian's brows creased even tighter. Zhou Xian Lil Luo was never yours. What do you mean by returning it to you? What do you think little Luo is? Treat her as my woman, Zhou Xian said with a sinister expression. Zhou Xian. Demo Xian's eyes were deep and serene as he spat out these three words in an icy cold tone. All of a sudden, flames erupted from his body. Even the 4 maids and 2 protectors outside the carriage couldn't help but shiver. Zhou Xian's thin lips curled up. There was not the slightest hint of a smile on his face. Instead there was a hint of disdain and mockery. Trying to persuade me to give up Yiqing Luo? Are you trying to persuade me to fulfill your love? His black eyes narrowed and coldness spread from his pupils. There was also a hint of mockery in his tone. What a pity. I, Zhou Wuxian, have never been a gentleman, and I don't have the thought of helping others achieve their dreams. His voice turned gloomier and gloomier as though it was wrapped in frost. Yiqing Luo is mine, the future. Will only be mine. If I can't get her, I'd rather destroy her than to fulfill your wishes. The expression on Dmo Xian's face turned increasingly ruthless and gloomy. The might released from Xiao Chen's body caused the surrounding curtains to flutter wildly. The 4 maids were so nervous that they didn't dare to move. Ayu glanced at Zhou Wuxian and cursed him 100 times in her heart. This Zhou Wuxian was seriously too ignorant of what was good for him. He dared to snatch Dizun's woman, and he even dared to be so arrogant. If the overlord was angry, he could tear him apart with his bare hands. Even Ayu and Ale, the 2 guardians, were somewhat unable to withstand the powerful pressure. They turned their pleading gazes towards the mistress of the imperial palace, who was sleeping soundly in Dmo Xian's arms. Dizun was furious. Only the mistress could pacify him. However, no matter how arrogant the Dizun was and how majestic his aura was, Yiqing Luo wasn't affected at all. Her lips still hung a faint smile as her hands wrapped around Dmo Xian's waist. Obviously, she was having a sweet dream about Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian had already tried his best to suppress his urge to kill Zhou Wuxian. He understood Yiqing Luo. He knew his woman. To Yiqing Luo. She thought that she had taken over the original identity of Yiqing Luo. Because of her existence, she had gone against the original Yiqing Luo and Zhou Wuxian's promise when they were young. She more or less felt a little guilty towards Zhou Wuxian. In particular, Zhou Wuxian had saved her several times because of the promise he made when they were young. Yiqing Luo was very grateful towards Zhou Wuxian. If he really killed Zhou Wuxian, there would definitely be a barrier between him and Yiqing Luo. Dmo Xian's eyelids drooped as he gazed deeply at the person in his arms. Soon after, he forcefully shut his eyes as he restrained the vicious aura around him. Zhou Wuxian didn't have the mood to tangle with Dmo Xian any further. For a moment they were both speechless. This strange atmosphere. It made the 2 guardians shiver uncontrollably. The 2 of them were in a stalemate. They were afraid. The 2 of them remained silent. They also felt their hairs standing on end. They were very suspicious. Letting Zhou Wuxian stay in the Imperial Palace. Chapter 3094. Imperial Palace. Yiqing Luo woke up when Dmo Xian carried her back to her princess-like room. The minute she opened her eyes, she saw the entire room in pink. Yiqing Luo went into a daze for a moment. After some time, her vision was fixed on Dmo Xian's face. We're back. She was still thinking of seeing how Dmo Xian brought her through the realm door. How could she be so disappointing, falling asleep in the carriage? It seemed, on the way to the Hell's Palace, she felt dizzy for a moment, and then they reached the Hell's Palace. Thinking of the sandalwood scent she smelled before she fell asleep. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as her eyes suddenly widened and her little hand grabbed Dmo Xian's collar. Tell me honestly, did you intentionally make me fall asleep? Dmo Xian's slender long hand caressed her lips as he gave a low and hoarse smile. Isn't it because you wanted to stay in my arms so you fell asleep? Yiqing Luo opened her mouth and bit his finger as she stared at him resentfully. Don't think that by teasing me you can change the topic. Tell me honestly, you made me fall asleep. What unspeakable things are you planning to do behind my back? Do what? What do you think? His low and hoarse voice was filled with magnetism. His finger intentionally teased between her teeth. His gaze was filled with infatuation. It was an obvious indication of some kind of feelings. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. She bit hard on his finger and immediately let go. Don't use this method to change the topic, I don't fall for it. Pretty boy trick or something. Use it a few more times. She would also develop antibodies all right. Dmo Xian laughed lightly as he bent down and planted a kiss on her lips. All right, I admit that I'm the reason why you fell asleep. His forehead was placed on hers. The distance between the 2 of them was very close. Why? Yiqing Luo asked. Dmo Xian caressed her face gently. I don't want you to see me finding trouble with Zhu Wuxian. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as she abruptly sat upright, pulling the distance between the two of them apart. You and Zhu Wuxian fought? The minute she fell asleep, the two of them started fighting? Indeed, letting Zhu Wuxian stay in the imperial palace was a wrong choice. I don't have the habit of taking advantage of others. Dmo Xian pinched her nose. Yiqing Luo's hands held onto his mischievous large palm. Where did you arrange for Zhu Wuxian to stay? Guest room. The human face hiding in Zhu Wuxian's right arm was a hidden danger. No matter how much he disliked Zhu Wuxian, Dmo Xian would not arrange for Zhu Wuxian to be too far away from him. He held on to her hand as his body leaned downwards. A rich male hormonal scent enveloped Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's back fell onto the soft big bed. She raised her eyes and met the man's deep peach blossom eyes. The flowing light was overflowing with a myriad of splendor. Yiqing Luo, who had already said that she had developed an immunity to the seduction, was once again mesmerized by the man's magnificent looks. I don't like the sound of his name coming from you. Dmo Xian lowered his head and captured her lips. This kiss was extremely forceful. Yiqing Luo didn't even have time to struggle before she was completely drowned by the man's scent. Until a rhythmic knocking sound was heard outside the door, interrupting the warmth and sweetness in the room. Dmo Xian's expression was extremely ugly, with an unsatisfied expression. Yiqing Luo pushed him away as she speedily tidied up her clothes and coughed lightly. What's the matter, madam? Chapter 3095. Beiyuan. Yiqing Luo immediately pushed away the man who wanted to hug her and slid down from the pink princess bed. Tang Beiyuan was under Dmo Xian's orders to personally send Gu Jingyu back to Wind Valley sect. I have something urgent to report. Could it be what happened? Although she could not respond to Gu Jingyu's feelings. But for her, Gu Jingyu was also her friend. Yiqing Luo opened the door and walked out. What happened? Tang Beiyuan cupped her fists towards Yiqing Luo. Mistress, something has happened in South Water Continent. Something happened? Yiqing Luo frowned. What happened? Tang Beiyuan was just about to speak when she saw Dmo Xian walking out of the house with a gloomy face. Her vision swiftly swept past Yiqing Luo's lips. He took another look at Dmo Xian's expression. As someone with a fiancé, she naturally knew what had happened in the room earlier. Tang Beiyuan lowered her head in silence. Yiqing Luo turned her head back and took a look at the gloomy man behind her. She stretched out her hand and held his large palm. Dmo Xian's expression then eased up a little as he glanced at Tang Beiyuan. Speak. When I brought young sect Master Gu to the Wind Valley sect, I discovered that South Wave Continent has already. Tang Beiyuan's expression was grave. It has already been plunged into misery and suffering. It is said that the monarch of South Wave Continent has already fled. The people will be plunged into misery and suffering? Yiqing Luo was stunned. South Wave's continent is one of the more developed continents among the 4 continents. Why would they suddenly start a war? Which continent attacked the South Wave's continent? Oh. Tang Beiyuan shook her head. The Wind Valley sect master said it happened half a month ago. It was a group of monsters. It's said that no matter what we do, we won't be able to kill them. They're impervious to swords and spears, fearless of fire and water. We can only watch as they slaughter one city after another. Unkillable. Corpse puppet? The first thing that popped up in Yiqing Luo's mind was the appearance of the corpse puppet. Apart from the Dark Palace's corpse puppets, Yiqing Luo couldn't think of any other unkillable monster. Tang Beiyuan had never seen a corpse puppet before, so she wasn't sure what Yiqing Luo was talking about. She paused for a moment, then continued. When I left, South Wave's continent had already been occupied by Dark Nether Palace. Now only Wind Valley sect is still defending South Wave's continent, but I'm afraid they won't be able to hold on for long. It really is a corpse puppet. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth. The Palace of Seclusion found someone to replace Yuyin so quickly? After Yuyin died. The process of refining corpse puppets should have been interrupted because of this. How could he adjust in such a short time? He could even bring his undead corpse puppets and invade the South Wave's continent? Could it be that, right from the start, the Palace of Darkness had already prepared a backup plan? Yiqing Luo looked at Dmo Xian as she asked in puzzlement. Dmo Xian's expression turned grave. I'm afraid the secluded palace are worried that we will take the opportunity to reduce their forces, so they are so anxious to expand their own forces. His eyes were deep. The matter of us going to the underworld palace, the Palace of Darkness should already know about it. The act of the Palace of Darkness invading the South Waves continent has further confirmed our guesses. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. Their motive is really to take over the entire Nirvana realm. But Yiqing Luo couldn't understand why the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness, that person with a distinguished status in the upper realm, had such a deep obsession towards the Nirvana realm. Chapter 3096. Call for help. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. The way to deal with the corpse puppets, other than Zhou Xian's mental power, the only way is to extract the Serene Yin's mental power to refine a weapon to kill them. Time is so tight. Yu Yin's mental force has not been extracted, and refining weapons also requires time. Even if the Wind Valley sect asks for help from the Imperial Palace, the Imperial Palace has no way to deal with those monsters. The Emperor Palace's disciples were all living people with flesh and blood. How could they be compared to the corpses of those puppets? The Imperial Palace is unable to agree to the Gu Feng sect's patriarch's request for help. Yiqing Luo's expression was solemn. Beiyuan, please reject the Gu Feng sect. Tang Beiyuan nodded. Just as she was about to turn around, she was stopped by a voice. Beiyuan, agree to the Wind Valley sect. Xian. When Yiqing Luo heard Dmo Xian's words, she immediately grabbed his arm tightly. You should be more familiar with the Imperial Palace's disciples than me. Their mental powers could not possibly be higher than Serene Yin, who specializes in mental powers. Unless his mental strength was higher than Yuan. Otherwise, the corpse puppets wouldn't be able to destroy it at all. Most importantly, the Yin Qi on the corpse puppets could easily corrupt a person's heart. Listen to me. Dmo Xian raised his large palm and stroked her hair, comforting her. Whether it's for public or private reasons, we can't let Netherworld Palace occupy the South Water continent. Once Nether Palace absorbs the forces of the South Waves continent, the other 3 continents will be restrained. If the Tenyu Palace develops, the Imperial Palace will become a stepping stone for the Tenyu Palace, and the Nirvana realm will cease to exist. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Her pink lips moved, but she couldn't say a single word of rebuttal. Indeed, the target of the Dark Nether Palace was obviously the entire Nirvana realm. The southern continent was just a starting point. If secluded Darkness Palace invaded the South Water continent and then attacked the West Water continent in one fell swoop, the West continent, which had just experienced a great battle with the Dark Forces and was still recuperating, was definitely no match for the undead corpse puppets. In this way, the East and North continents would be in imminent danger. She and Dmo Xian had gone to the Underworld Palace. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness must have known through Bai Mei's thick skin. They must also know that the balance historian of the Heavenly Lore Realm had met with them. However, the Dark Nether Palace still dared to invade the South Water continent in such a wantonly manner, directly targeting the entire Nirvana realm. Clearly, he was not afraid of the Heavenly Lore Realm interfering. Or perhaps the person behind the Tenyu Palace had a higher status than the Heavenly Lore Realm. But if his status was so high, why did they have to target a small shrimp like her? Why did he have to invade the entire Nirvana realm? Just because she was together with Dmo Xian? Just because Dmo Xian stayed in Nirvana realm, it caused the people behind the Nether Palace to feel that there was some unspeakable secret in Nirvana realm? Oh, something was not right. If the other party was really as she guessed. His status was above the Heavenly Lore realm and he was mysterious and noble. Unless it was necessary. The other party would never take such a huge risk to destroy the balance between realms that had been maintained for centuries or even millennia. Little Luo, Dmo Xian's voice rang once again. His hand gently placed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and met his gaze. The most important thing is. Dmo Xian looked at her. Agree to Wind Valley Sect's request for help, then you can let Wind Valley Sect use the Vermilion Bird Pearl as an exchange condition. Vermilion Bird Pearl. Yiqing Luo suddenly understood. The main reason why you agreed to Wind Valley Sect's request for help is because of the Vermilion Bird Pearl? Amen. Dmo Xian didn't refute. Chapter 3097. More than that, it was still a warm current. She disregarded her shyness and Tang Biyun's presence. She stretched out her arms and wrapped them around Dmo Xian's waist. She leaned her body completely into Dmo Xian's arms, agreeing to Wind Valley Sec's request for help. Ultimately it was all for her. In order to help her collect the 4 sacred beasts' pearls, in order to open the door to the upper realm. Xian, thank you. She spoke in a hoarse voice as her little face rubbed against his arms. The man's strong arms wrapped around her tightly. His broad and warm embrace gave her a great sense of security. He chuckled as his magnetic and mellow voice floated down from above her head. Silly girl, I'm not only doing this for you but also for myself, for our future. While speaking, Dmo Xian had already bent down and pressed his thin lips against her ear. The man's warm breath sprayed out. He smiled. I really can't wait to make you my wife. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled slightly. Her fingers, which were clutching the man's robe, unconsciously curled up. Her little face, which was buried in the man's arms, was stained with a few patches of red. Beiyuan, go and reply to Wind Valley Sect. Dmo Xian gently caressed Yiqing Luo's fine black hair as he looked up at Tang Beiyuan. Bring the conditions that I have mentioned over. Yes. Tang Beiyuan responded. Wait. Yiqing Luo popped out her little head from Dmo Xian's arms. Beiyuan, leave the matter of replying to Wind Valley Sect to others first. I still have something to trouble you with. Tang Beiyuan was stunned for a moment before she nodded. Yes, mistress. Hearing Tang Beiyuan's serious address, Yiqing Luo's temperature, which had dropped with great difficulty, rose again. She pursed her pink lips and said, if it's possible, ask Wind Valley Sect's patriarch if they can hold on for another 3 days. 3 days later the Imperial Palace will definitely rush over. 3 days. Tang Beiyuan was slightly hesitant. The situation in South Continent isn't too optimistic. 3 days might be a little difficult. First, bring a portion of the Xian generation disciples to South Continent. 3 days later I will personally go over with little Luo. Dmo Xian said. Tang Beiyuan answered, yes. After Tang Beiyuan left, Dmo Xian Huan hugged Yiqing Luo's petite body tightly as he cupped her little face with one hand. Want Beiyuan to refine a batch of weapons to go against the undead puppets in these 3 days? Yiqing Luo's hands wrapped around his neck. No one knows me better than Xian, you're really a roundworm in my stomach. Indeed, this was what she had in mind. Within her azure dew bracelet, a dark and sinister mental energy was sealed. First he extracted a portion of his mental power and let Tang Beiyuan use it to refine a portion of the weapons. At least when it came to undead puppets, he wouldn't be in such a sorry state. I'll bring you to the armament refining hall. Dmo Xian gave her a peck on her lips and immediately carried her up, striding out of the courtyard. Yiqing Luo's legs trembled. Don't hug me like this. If the maids and disciples see this, I'm very embarrassed. Although that was what he said. But Yiqing Luo's brows were filled with a blissful and sweet smile. The hands which were wrapped around Dmo Xian's neck refused to loosen for a long time. Towards Dmo Xian's action to declare her identity to the entire imperial palace, Yiqing Luo was naturally delighted. There was no woman who didn't like their beloved man to declare his identity. The two of them were filled with warmth and sweetness. But they didn't notice it. Outside the courtyard, on top of a thick and sturdy tree, a red figure slowly descended. The man's face was grave and stern, surrounded by a layer of austere intent. His frosty eyes stared maliciously at the two figures which were getting further and further away. His eyes turned gloomier and colder. Mini Theater. Zhou. It seems, it's a new month. Forgot to ask for the monthly votes? Dmo Xian cold glance. He just realized? Without the support of the monthly votes, this lord's skill points to flirt with Lil Luo are almost used up. Do you know that? Yiqing Luo, sneer. You just realized? Without the energy of the monthly votes, I can't even use the skill to flirt with Xian. Zhou. You two flirting here and there. Is it really good to abuse a single dog? Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo, rubbing their fists. Hee. Don't let this lord me flirt with Lil Luo. Xian. Well, stop acting. Stop acting, do you understand? The purpose of our appearance is to flirt. Chapter 3098. 3 days later. Yiqing Luo and Tang Beiyuan walked out of the armament refining hall. Their fine black hair was in a mess, their faces were haggard and their eyes were green, showing signs of fatigue. Yiqing Luo yawned, and as she walked, she glanced sideways at Tang Beiyuan. Beiyuan, go back and rest first. What about you? After 3 days of refining weapons together, Tang Beiyuan finally changed the way she addressed Yiqing Luo and called her by her name. Yiqing Luo stretched her waist lazily. Let's not waste any more time. I'll go back and tidy myself up, then bring the weapons and head towards South Continent with Zhou Xian. I'll go too. Tang Beiyan's lips curled slightly, her eyes were filled with fatigue but it didn't hide the melancholy in her eyes. I'll go back to tidy myself up now, wait for me. Yiqing Luo frowned. You should be very clear that the trip to South Continent might be life-threatening. I know. Tang Beiyuan smiled. That's why I have to go. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips in silence. Tang Beiyuan patted her shoulder lightly and smiled calmly. Moreover, these weapons to deal with the puppets are all refined by me. If I go with you, it will be easier for me to bring out the best effect and advantage of each weapon. Think it through carefully. Yiqing Luo didn't try to dissuade her, she respected everyone's choice. After making an appointment to meet Tang Beiyuan at the entrance of the palace, Yiqing Luo walked towards the courtyard. He just turned around. The familiar and elegant scent of sandalwood entered her nostrils. Her eyes lit up as her lips curled into a smile. Sorry, I was dealing with the palace's matters earlier, so I'm late. The man's gentle and magnetic voice floated down from above. Yiqing Luo was exhausted as she unceremoniously leaned her weight into Damo Xian's arms. Carry me back as punishment. She just wrapped her arms around Damo Xian's waist. Yiqing Luo suddenly thought of something as her face congealed in satisfaction and she hurriedly stretched out both hands to push Damo Xian. Wait, you can't carry me now. He just struggled. The man's arms suddenly tightened. The rich male hormonal scent almost intoxicated Yiqing Luo's heart. Damo Xian's thin lips curled up frivolously. I haven't seen you for 3 days, I miss you so much that I'm going crazy, how can I not hug you? The man's words of love were husky and magnetic. A pair of blazing eyes as if a raging fire was about to burn. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. Her brain had already been seduced by the man's sweet nothings. But her body was still resisting the man's intimate embrace again. Damo Xian held both her hands that were pushing him away, his low and husky voice was mellow and sexy. Haven't seen me for 3 days, don't you miss me? He wanted to say no. His lips parted slightly but not a single word came out. Why was it that she was always the one who was unable to extricate herself from Damo Xian's seduction? Why did you reject me? Damo Xian saw that she had stopped struggling and continued to tempt her with a low and husky laugh. Yiqing Luo's hands were held by him and her body was locked in his embrace, so there was no way for her to escape. In the end she could only blush as she muttered, I haven't bathed in 3 days. The smell stinks. Finishing her words, she buried her face into Damo Xian's arms. He was so embarrassed that he didn't want to speak anymore. But, after she finished her words, silence pervaded the air. This made Yiqing Luo feel even more embarrassed. After a moment of silence, she was angered by this strange atmosphere, gritting her teeth as she raised her head and stared angrily at Damo Xian. Chapter 3099. Ha! Ha! The man burst out laughing. His chest undulated, showing how carefree the man was when he laughed. The more he laughed, Yiqing Luo only felt more embarrassed. She bit her lower lip, struggled her hands and snorted angrily. Laugh, laugh, laugh. Laugh all you want. The more she struggled, the tighter the man hugged her. Also the more wantonly he laughed. Perhaps he sensed the young lady in his arms, whose anger was on the verge of exploding. Damo Xian smiled as he held her slender waist tightly, his thin lips slowly landed on her lips. I don't despise you. Yiqing Luo. Her cheeks turned even redder. This was no longer embarrassment but annoyance. Unfortunately, the man unknowingly raised his hand and gently rubbed Yiqing Luo's hair. Even if you don't bathe for 3 years, I won't despise you. Damo Xian. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth, raised her elbow and was about to knock Damo Xian. Damo Xian laughed lightly as he blocked her hand. Following that, his long arms scooped. Conveniently, he carried her up by the waist. Yiqing Luo's hands instinctively hooked around his neck. Alright, I'll stop teasing you. No matter how I tease you, your face is still so ugly. Damo Xian gently kissed her eyes. Rest first, I'll call you later. No. Today is the 3rd day we need. Yiqing Luo shook her head. I'll arrange it and set off immediately. Xian interrupted her words. Rest first, I'll help you bathe and change your clothes. Yiqing Luo. How on earth did he say to help her bathe in such a serious manner? It's not the first time I helped you bathe, why are you still shy? Xian sensed her gaze and looked down at her. Yiqing Luo. Can't be shy if it's not the first time? Don't say it as if helping her bathe was a very normal thing. Xian laughed softly. Don't worry, I won't take the opportunity to do anything to you. He paused and continued, You're so tired, no matter what I do to you, you don't have any reaction, this is so boring. Yiqing Luo. Could she hammer him to death? In the end, Yiqing Luo couldn't resist the physical exhaustion and sleepiness as she fell into a deep sleep after messing around with Xian for a while. By the time Yiqing Luo woke up, it was already noon the next day. She opened her eyes and saw the man's smooth chin. At this moment she was lying on Xian's lap and her arms were still wrapped around his waist. This posture, it was a little too ambiguous. She blinked her eyes, still a little confused. Sensing that Yiqing Luo had woken up, the man lowered his eyes. The obsidian-like peach blossom eyes reflected into Yiqing Luo's pupils. Their eyes met. You're awake? Are you hungry? Xian caressed her face lightly. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes again and after some time she seemed to have recalled something as she sat up abruptly. Didn't you say that you would wake me up after helping me bathe? An irrepressible chuckle came from the side. Yiqing Luo immediately turned her head over. She then discovered that she was sitting in a carriage similar to a horse carriage and the curtains on both sides were fluttering from time to time. Yiqing Luo could see a large patch of white clouds moving backwards rapidly. Which meant to say, now it was little Nine who was dragging the carriage, running wildly in the sky. That laughter seemed to come from outside the carriage. Yiqing Luo immediately climbed up from Xian's lap and pulled the curtains open. She saw Tang Beiyuan who was riding on a flying magical beast outside the curtains, looking at her with an evil smile. Chapter 3100. I was wondering why the Overlord personally carried you up the carriage, so. Everything was because the Overlord was serving you. Tang Beiyuan lowered her voice to tease. But she intentionally emphasized on the word serving. Yiqing Luo tugged the curtains hard and shrank back into the carriage. She stared furiously at Xian. Why didn't you tell me that we're on the way to South Continent? You didn't give me a chance to speak. Xian was innocent. Yiqing Luo was embarrassed as she pursed her lips. It's all your fault, you didn't wake me up earlier, it's so embarrassing. You're very tired and need to rest. Xian stretched out his hand and pulled the young lady into his arms. They all know that you're my future wife and you won't be embarrassed. His delicate kiss landed on her forehead. They also don't dare to laugh at you. Yiqing Luo shrank backwards, avoiding his kiss with an unhappy look. It was easy to say. They didn't dare to laugh, but not knowing how to laugh were two different things. Xian's underlings had heard their private words. She couldn't even look at them in the eye in future. Yiqing Luo wanted to cry but no tears came out, so embarrassed that she wanted to turn back time. Her evasion made Xian misunderstood. He tightened his arm and lifted her lower jaw as his fingertip brushed past her lips. I said before, I don't despise you, don't hide from me. Yiqing Luo. Despise your grandpa. I despise you. Just as Yiqing Luo was filled with embarrassment, a knocking sound was heard from outside the carriage. Yiqing Luo walked over with a green face as she lifted the curtains. Tang Beiyuan, you still want to tease. Her words were stuck in her throat when she saw the figure outside the carriage. After the curtains were lifted, what he saw was an extremely grave and stern face. Black pupils were as cold as ice as he fixed his eyes on her. As though he wanted to freeze her into ice. So cold that it was bone-chilling. The anger on Yiqing Luo's face slowly dissipated. Chu Wu Exen. Outside the carriage, riding on a huge green wolf, wasn't that Chu Wu Exen? The human face in Chu Wu Exen's right arm had yet to be resolved. They were heading towards South Continent. Zhou Xian indeed had to accompany them. Was he the one who helped you bathe yesterday? Zhou Xian asked with a cold expression. Yiqing Luo frowned. Couldn't he tell that she really didn't want to discuss this topic? Evidently Zhou Xian could not tell. Seeing that Yiqing Luo didn't reply, Zhou Wu Exen continued asking, did you willingly allow him to help you wash or did he force you? Yiqing Luo. She pulled down the curtain again, blocking Zhou Wuxian's face. Yiqing Luo, if he forced you, tell me. I will help you take revenge. Zhu Wuxian did not give up and said coldly from outside the carriage. Shut up. Yiqing Luo couldn't take it anymore. His rage was about to be ignited. Dmo Xian embraced her once again. Her body fell backwards and fell into Dmo Xian's arms. The man's hands encircled her waist. A large palm was still pressed against her abdomen. The scorching and thick feeling made Yiqing Luo's petite body tremble slightly. Lil Luo, is this Lord's future wife? This is merely a normal action and has nothing to do with you. Dmo Xian's calm voice rang faintly. His long and narrow peach blossom eyes curled as a cold glint flashed past the corners of his eyes. Lil Luo, is this Lord's future wife so naturally, this is also voluntary. Outside the carriage, Zhu Wuxian didn't say another word. Chapter 3101. Xian. Yiqing Luo's little hand held onto Dmo Xian's big palm as she called out to him softly, "Don't say any more. I'm so sorry. I'm merely telling the truth to those pestering people." Dmo Xian's eyes were sinister as he looked outside the curtain, as though he was looking at Zhu Wuxian through the carriage. Yiqing Luo wanted to say something as she raised her head to look at him. But she discovered that Dmo Xian's expression was extremely ugly. She was stunned, but in the end she didn't say anything else. Dmo Xian's vinegar jar was overturned again. So be it if he was embarrassed. Anyway, love and whatnot should be flaunted. Just let Dmo Xian declare his sovereignty, his ownership. If it could let Zhu Wuxian know that he should back off, that would be even better. The group of people, under the tense and strange atmosphere, under the acceleration of their own war pets. That night, they arrived at South Continent's main city, Valley Wind City. After walking out of the carriage, Yiqing Luo was stunned by the current situation in Valley Wind City. She remembered. Previously, when she took part in the Academy's exchange meet, she came to South Continent. The prosperous scene in South Continent was still fresh in her memory. But now, it made one's heart heavy. The sky was filled with a dense mass of flying beasts as though dark clouds were rolling. And it was faintly mixed with lightning and thunder. The magical beasts' roars and the flying beasts' cries rose and fell wave after wave. Looking at Valley Wind City, the flames of war raged in the sky. Figures dressed in black Palace of Darkness uniform walked back and forth. Magical beasts, flying beasts, Palace of Darkness people as well as dead corpses and puppets, filled the entire Valley Wind City. Help! Suddenly, a miserable cry was heard not far ahead. Everyone looked towards the direction of the sound. They saw a few commoners being pressed onto the ground by a few magical beasts. They only managed to make a few cries for help before they were torn into pieces by the magical beasts. It was extremely cruel and bloody. The people from Palace of Darkness are too cruel. Tang Beiyuan was also stunned by this scene. Ah Yu, Ah Lei and Ah Feng, the three guardians, speedily stood in front of Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo as they looked around vigilantly. The few of them's appearance. This had already attracted the attention of the demonic beasts. When I came here a few days ago, it wasn't this tragic. Tang Beiyuan sucked in a breath of cold air. Valley Wind City has become like this. Could it be that Valley Wind sect couldn't have held on? He's still holding on. Yiqing Luo's gaze shot towards the direction of Valley Wind City. There are still people fighting with the birds and beasts. From time to time, the birds in the sky would rush down and crash into the buildings in Goofing City. The beasts were also fiercely tearing and destroying everything in Valley Wind City. But on the city wall, there were also groups of armored soldiers dealing with the birds and beasts. There are innocent people over there. Take them to a safe place. The general on the city wall noticed that the few people were gradually surrounded by the beasts and people from the Palace of Darkness. He immediately ordered the soldiers behind him. 10 over soldiers immediately flew down from the city walls, blocking in front of Yiqing Luo and the others. The soldiers were all covered with scattered wounds and there were new wounds which were still bleeding. But they clenched the weapons in their hands tightly as they stood firmly in front of Yiqing Luo and the others. Facing the savage and bloody inhumane walking beasts, the people from Palace of Darkness had no fear at all. "You all are from Valley Wind sect?" Yiqing Luo opened her mouth to ask. The soldiers turned their heads curiously as they took a look at Yiqing Luo. For any normal person, on seeing Valley Wind City turning into such a bloody and brutal scene, no matter what they did, they would be scared out of their wits.